Just tell me a bit about yourselves, including your background. Jeff, I know you served in the military, and also maybe a little bit about the journey you both had to get to where you are today with your company.
I came to the US at the age of 3. My parents immigrated to the US for better opportunity, just like most families. And I grew up in Southern California and then later in North Carolina. I'm a second oldest of 4 siblings, and it was a pretty busy household. We grew up pretty much working in our parents' businesses. Our parents owned a couple of business ventures, and we didn't really have time for any extracurricular activities. So we grew up pretty much just helping out, learning business, and kind of working in that field. So I grew up doing that. However, that's not something at that point that I was interested in, running a business. And I decided to go out on my own. Didn't know what career path I wanted. So I joined the Marine Corps. And that's pretty much the furthest you can get from being out on your own. So, because there you always have somebody telling you what to eat, when to eat, when to sleep, when to wake up. So obviously that wasn't really too much on your own. However, it did instill a lot of fundamentals and structure and just learning how to follow orders. So that was my military career was fundamental for my growth. So while in the Marine Corps, I served overseas several combat deployments and in different capacities. And my last deployment in Afghanistan, I was injured. So that pretty much ended my Marine Corps career, and I had to think about transitioning out and trying to figure out what it is that I wanted to do from that point, because my intent was to pretty much serve my 20 years and go from there. So it was cut short. I got out at 12 years. So then the transition wasn't too easy for me because I had different plans, had different expectations. So it was just a wrench that was thrown into the whole plan that I had. But my wife supported me throughout the process, the recovery process. And I had a pretty good team of people in my life that kind of helped me move forward from that and recover. And so during my transition, I enrolled in college. And while I was figuring out what I wanted to do, I looked back on everything that I grew up doing, considering that I was surrounded by business related things with my parents having business ownership. So I had an opportunity to go and attend an entrepreneur program at Purdue University. And that kind of brought back my mindset of wanting to be a business owner. I was surrounded by other veterans and incredible staff. So that pretty much gave me the boost I needed to pursue business ownership.
My name is Philippe Scholegan. I was born in France and I spent 20 years in the military and business aircraft manufacturing industry in team and project management positions, both in the IT department and sales engineering department. I came to the US for work in my late 20s, initially for 6 months. One thing led to another. I had the opportunity to stay, and eventually I never went back to live in France. I became a US citizen 5 years ago, and I now live in Atlanta with my wife and our 2 young daughters. My military service took place in a context when France had a mandatory service for young men pre-2000s. And I had the opportunity to spend 10 months in the military and actually served in a headquarters of an army division for the transportation corps. And it was a great experience for me, a great opportunity to discover and appreciate the military culture that I didn't know until then. And my journey to where I am today, I started my real estate career as a side hustle while working full time, and started by purchasing a couple of single family houses, and then became interested in commercial multifamily real estate in order to scale. And I transitioned to working in real estate full time 2 years ago. And I'm also a mentor for new entrepreneurs in real estate.
That's really great. Thank you both for sharing that. I love hearing your stories and what brought you here to where you are today. And that leads us on to our next question, which I'm excited also to learn more about. Why don't you tell us the name of your company, what your company does, and why you created it?
Sure. So our company name is Boost Capital Group. And Boost Capital Group is a private real estate investment firm that provides investment opportunities, risk mitigation, and portfolio diversification through alternative assets, and pretty much investing in commercial grade real estate opportunities.
Jeff and I co-founded Boost Capital Group. First, we created it because we had a common vision, and we also have complementary skills and experiences. And I think what's important is our vision, because we recognize that there are a lot of professionals and family providers who are busy with their lives and busy with their careers and busy with their families, and they may not be aware necessarily of all the opportunities that exist around them in alternative assets, in real estate, to invest, and particularly to invest passively. And we strongly believe that everyone should have an opportunity to balance their professional life and their personal life, and they don't have to compromise or choose between spending quality time with their family and securing their financial future.
I love that mission. I think that's awesome. And leading into the next question, what makes Boost Capital Group different from its competitors?
The way we differentiate ourselves is through our service to our investors. We created a fund that provides an elevated level of transparency, flexibility, and control to our investors by providing them a platform to create a diversified portfolio inside the fund, allowing them to select the deals they want to invest in. So that's something you rarely see in a fund, individual deal selection and the high levels of transparency.
And what are some of the, I guess, the biggest ways that the company is growing right now?
Because we recently merged both companies, we consider that part of our growth process. As we stated earlier, we recently merged into Boost Capital Group. So our growth is steady and it's moving forward, definitely.
And why do you both think people, particularly young families and busy professionals, why do you think these people should be investing in real estate?
Jeff and I, we came to appreciate real estate because there are so many facets and opportunities in this industry and the benefits that it brings to investors. And for instance, commercial real estate, multifamily real estate, you can do what is called forced appreciation, meaning that if you increase the net income of a property, then it's going to increase its value. And the typical ways to increase income is increasing rents through renovations and lowering expenses thanks to professional property management, which is our typical business plan. The other aspect of a benefit of real estate is a recession resistance, meaning that because shelter is a basic need, whether there is a recession or not, people will need to have shelter. And additionally, there is a deficit of housing in the United States. It's really a recession-resistant assets that we're investing in. Another area is the leverage. And because when people invest in a larger multifamily project or real estate project or fund that owns several assets, you're going to pool money together and you'll have access to larger deals. You'll have access to leverage with lenders, so you'll be able to buy larger properties. And finally, you're going also to leverage the expertise of the team with managing and finding these deals for you. So that there are several aspects of leverage. And finally, a couple of other benefits. There's the tax benefits because of depreciation. And if you invest in a fund, as we mentioned earlier, you'll have some diversification because you'll be able to invest in different assets that are located in different markets and that are also could have different business plans.
And I think that's a great point too about how real estate investing is recession proof. And which leads on to the next question is, I'm sure, particularly for young professionals and families, how are you ensuring the stability of your investments in today's economy when everything is changing?
Like most business professionals, we watch the market. We stay informed on changes, everything from the SEC regulations to the Fed's raising rents. As we grow, we like to consider the current state of the economy and as well as investor sentiments. We know that a lot of it correlates. Our business right now, we decided to slow things down a little bit and continue to heavily consider both the micro and macroeconomics within our business plans for every deal that we present to our investors.
That's great. And why don't you tell us a bit more about the investment opportunity that you have right now on Localvest, and what would you like investors to know about it, and why is this a good opportunity for them to invest in?
We're very excited about the opportunity to share on the Localvest network our Boost Wealth Fund. It's a CPREF fund, meaning it's a customizable private real estate fund. And the idea with this fund is to give the opportunity to the investors to invest in multiple assets. And our fund is a little bit unique because it provides all the advantages of a fund, all the benefits of individual syndications, but without any drawbacks of the fund. Particularly, I think for us, the transparency and flexibility and deal selection feature that we provide in the fund, they allow the investors to be informed and invest with confidence.
That's great. And how do you communicate that information to your investors? I know you're talking about transparency and giving them the options and flexibility. How do you guys communicate that information?
We do it through providing educational information, whether it's a video we put together to explain the step-by-step process, as well as articles, blog. And because it's a new process, so it becomes difficult trying to explain something beyond the norm. We just do it through constantly blogging or videos. I think that's pretty much the best delivery method right now.
In our fund portal, the transparency and flexibility is going to be available because the investors have access to individual deals. And for each deal, we provide more specific detailed information. So that's how they can get familiar with the specific of the deal, the location, number of units, the business plan, the returns. And being that different investors, they have different goals. If the deal specific return profile and risk profile fits the requirements of the investor, then they can select that deal to invest in.
That's really cool. I think that's a great way to share with investors. I think that sounds awesome with blog posts and videos and the fund portal that you mentioned. That just sounds like a great way to make things accessible for people. Okay, and moving on to the last question, which relates back to the military a little bit. Why do you believe veterans and military founders make great entrepreneurs, and how has your military experience helped you in your role at Boost Capital Group?
So just all veterans know, military service is strict for the most part. And I feel it provides veterans the tools to become great entrepreneurs by becoming effective leaders and followers. With the focus on mission accomplishment instilled during military service, it provides a purpose where mission, focus, growth, and camaraderie is enabled. And as far as it helping in business, it always comes back to teamwork. And in business, yes, you can do things by yourself, but with a team, things go a lot further. I think, especially in this business, a team is very important for success.
That's great. Thank you both so much. Is there any question or is there anything that you wanted to talk about that I didn't ask you about? Is there anything else that you'd like to share before I stop recording?
I believe the journey part, I don't think I talked about how I got started in real estate, really. So I think I'm just going to add that towards the end in case it can be tossed in there. So
yeah, go for it. I'd love to hear that. How did you get started in real estate?
Right. So as stated before, with my parents having businesses, buy and hold was a something that they did. So they bought properties and we worked on no contractors, nothing. We did all the work from electrical to roofing to foundation repair. So we did all that work growing up. So I was familiar with that. So when I transitioned, I found myself being drawn to real estate again. And when I moved over here to Virginia, I started a company where I was able to do fix and flips and buy and hold. So I started doing that in the area, in the local area, got a good team together and just started flipping houses and decided that I wanted to grow. So I pretty much started looking at options and pretty much found commercial real estate in multifamily apartments. So that sparked my interest and I pursued that and started getting more involved, learning the business, investing as a passive investor so I could learn how that process went as well from that perspective. So then once I saw how things work, how it is to be a passive investor, I jumped in with both feet and got involved in multifamily apartment investing, became a general partner, and just grew from there. Now we find ourselves here at Boost Capital Group.
That's great. Thank you. And I have a quick question as well that I just wanted to clarify more for myself. I know you mentioned that you merged companies. What were those two companies that you merged?
Sure. My company was Stratus Investments, is along the same lines of multifamily investing. There was no fund or anything like that. It was just multifamily investing. And Phillips was a 555 Ventures,
Yeah.
Which was active a lot longer than mine.
That's awesome. Thank you. I love hearing too how you understand both the investor side as well as the fund management side. I think that's really cool. And obviously translate a lot just in terms of how you guys communicate with investors and having that transparency, I think is awesome. It's really cool. Okay. Is there anything else that you guys want to talk about before we wrap up? That's great. Thank you guys so much.